Hello and welcome to Live Work Life Training Academy. I'm hoping people are now, people are logging on now. Can you just drop me a line either in the chat box or the question box, just so I can make sure everyone can actually hear me? Great, Catherine, thank you very much. People are still logging in, so I'll let people log in for a while. I hope everyone's fit and well and safe. Hope everyone's enjoying the lovely sunshine as well. It's been lovely outside for the last day or two. My family been out there in the sun whilst I've been in here, so good luck to them. Right, people are still coming in. I'll give it another couple of minutes. Right, okay, right. I'll kick off as people start to come in, they can catch up. Okay, so welcome to Live Work Life Training Academy. This is building a brilliant mindset in a downturn. Certainly, I've been through quite a number of downturns and had recessions affect my business quite badly. I've also had personal downturns when the rest of the market's been flying. And this is about your mindset and how you can come out of it. And I think that your mind is probably one of the most unutilized tools in recruitment, but actually is probably one of the most powerful tools of recruitment if you use it properly. So what I want to do is I want to set the scene and set the tone within this conversation. I hope there'll be some interactive parts. I've got some polls that I want to push up and push out to you guys. I hope they work. I've had trouble getting them to work this morning, but we'll find out as we go along. Anyway, so let's kick off. So the agenda for today is quite long and quite extensive, and I want to make sure that we get through this on a reasonably quick level. Okay, so the agenda is today, why work in recruitment? And we all know why we're working in recruitment. 90 days to change our lives, the wheel and life of life and the circle of recruitment, 90 days of massive action, balance, 5 characteristics of brilliant people, brilliant goal setting, ultimate goal setters, and 90 days to be brilliant, and then the foundations that we're going to create from there. So why recruitment? Recruitment is a $30-odd billion business in the UK. Recruitment provides an absolute outstanding opportunity for people to earn and make money in the marketplace. But recruitment comes in cycles, and there's always a boom and bust cycle, irrespective of you as a person, the actual market. So sometimes the market is absolutely buoyant and flying, and sometimes the market is down as it is at the moment. And it's how you react in that time and what you do in that reaction in that time that's really important. So first thing I want you to do is fire into the chat box or fire into the question box words that you think describe team, because team is really important, even respective whether you're working on your own or whether you're working as part of a business. Team perspective is really important. So I'm interested to see what people are flying, what people time. So Jacqueline has put shared knowledge. So if you see me looking away, I'm looking at a different screen so I can pick everything out. So shared knowledge is one way of describing team. What else could you put down as describing team? Personality, yes, Frank, absolutely. There's lots of personality in team. Communication, Francis, Jessica, absolutely. Camaraderie, Kaz, absolutely. Cohesion, yeah. All these words describe team. What else? Together, everyone achieves more. Absolutely. Together, everyone definitely achieves more. What else have we got there that's flying around that would describe team? Okay, so when we look at that, camaraderie, support, and things like that, what I always say about team is brilliance doesn't happen by accident. It's all about planning, the work, and the skills. And whatever happens, whether you're working as a team or you're working as an individual, the more people you have, and I think someone sort of mentioned it there, about shared knowledge, shared camaraderie, together everyone achieves more. I always find that if you want to go it alone, you can get there fast. But if you want to go together as part of a team, you'll go a lot further. So irrespective whether you're working as an individual, I know there's a couple of people on this webinar that are working by themselves. However, if they can create virtual teams around them to help them develop, then it becomes so much easier and so much better. So we've got to start to think about how we work as a team and how we gather as a team. So the first thinking about our mindset is that you're not alone. There are other people out there that can help you, and there are other people out there that will drive you and help you to achieve more. It's how you tap into that person and what you do to tap into that person to make sure that you carry on developing your mindset and developing your business to be a winning mindset. I find there's two types of people. There are pessimistic people and optimistic people. And what you generally see is that you are a creation of your environment, because no one's actually born optimistic and no one's born pessimistic. So your environment around you creates whether you're pessimistic and optimistic. And what we're going to talk about on this course is how we're going to challenge those theories and how we can change that by changing our mindset. So the first thing we want to look at is 90 days to change our future. If we think that we're in lockdown now, where could we be in 90 days and what can we do in 90 days to ensure that we are absolutely at our best, irrespective of whether we're outside of the lockdown or whether we're still inside the lockdown, we're moving forward. And it's about creating your mindset to do that. So the secret is not in the knowing. The secret is actually in the doing. So whatever we do, we've got to make sure that we do the right things. So the first thing I want to look at is the wheel of life. So what you want to do, if you've got a pad or a pen, I hope you're all making notes, okay, very quickly draw the wheel of life just by using just lines and what have you. 0 is in the middle, okay, and then 10 is on the outside. So if we look at here, let me just get a pointer. Okay, so 0's here and 10's on the outside. So what I want you to do is draw this wheel for you, okay? And then what I want you to do on each line, on a grade of 1 to 10, with 0 being absolutely the worst you could be and 10 being brilliant, where you would be. And then what we can do is we can go round and put on each line a dot of where you think you are and what you think you should be doing in that area. So if we just put a little dot there and work that from there. People doing that? Give us a little hands up when you've finished doing that and you've finished plotting your course of where you are. Okay, so what we should have dots where we could now start to join these dots together, and we start to really sort of think, right, okay, I might have a line like this, a line like here. I might think about my relationships, okay, my contribution to my life. I might think about the vision I have for my life. Where am I against my vision? Look at my career, where am I against my career? What have I done against my personal prospects, okay? And back to my health. So I've got to look at a line here, and I've got to sort of look at where I am on each individual section. And I'm doing that on each thing. So everything inside this circle or these lines that I've driven and drawn, that's what I'm in control of. That's what I'm doing. But everything on the outside, that is where I'm starting to fall down. That's the areas that I need to improve. Now, the reason I started with the wheel of life is because your personal life and your business life is obviously massively intrinsically linked, and how we pull things together is really important. So I'm going to launch a poll, okay, based on exactly that from there. Okay, so what I want you to vote on is what you think the most important thing to you is. Is it your health? Is it how close to your family? Is it money? Is it relationships? Is it contribution? Is it the vision you have for your life, your career, your personal development? Just drop me a note just to make sure you can see that, because sometimes you can't see the questions. Okay, if you can see the poll in front of you, then give us a nod. Okay, because no one's actually voting on the poll, so I'm not sure whether you can actually see the poll. Just see if I can relaunch that poll, relaunch the poll. Okay, can people see the poll? Just give it a nod just on there so you can see the poll. Can anyone see the poll at all? So the poll's not working. Okay, so don't worry. So the poll's not working, so we'll come back to that and work from there, because the poll seems to be having a problem. It's been having a problem all day. So inside here is what we control. And inside here is what we need. So when we sort of draw this circle here, it gives an idea of the parts of my life that I want to start to improve. So if I want to improve my health, I've got to work out how I can improve my health. If I want to be closer to my family, if I want to create more money or have better relationships, whether it be a work relationship, a family relationship, whatever it be, how I contribute to my life. And this is really important. How you contribute to your life is really important. Do you contribute positively or do you contribute negatively to your life? Because what you actually put in is what you will get out. So there are lots of people who think they are contributing to their life in the most positive way, and what actually they're doing is they're detracting from their life in the most ultimate way. And it's about changing those things that we can do to work. So having a vision of where you want to be in your life is really important, and setting those visions out clearly is important. Because as we move on from the wheel of life, we're going to move into the next section, which again is more important for us, because the next section is the circle of recruitment. So I want you to do the same thing. I want you to go from 1 to 10 all the way around: lead conversion, lead generation, lead conversion, market mapping, resourcing, etc., all the way around. Draw in your lines, and again, from 0 to 10, plan out where you are and how good you are. So your lead generation, are you picking up good candidates? Are you picking up good clients? Are you converting that candidate? So is your BD really strong? Are you getting a strong BD? Are you getting strong candidates? When you're market mapping, do you have a good spread of clients? Do you understand your market map, what's going on? When you start to resource into the marketplace, do you have good affinity with your candidate base? Have you got a good candidate base out there, or are you forever reinventing the wheel? Do you really understand how to spec CVs into clients to whet the client's appetite? And is your requirement control absolutely brilliant, or is it poor? Look at your interviews. Is your interview or CV to interview ratio really good? Is your interview preparation absolutely brilliant? How well are you at closing? What do you like at aftercare? And what are your call times like? And that's a really interesting one. A lot of people don't like to talk about call times. When I talk about call times, I don't think about how long you've been on the phone. I think about the call times that actually have an impact on my business and how good they are. So do I spend an awful lot of time on the phone to my clients and to my candidates, okay, and generating things that move my business forward? Or am I just a keyboard warrior and typing away, sending emails, and not getting a real great back? So again, what I want you to do is start to draw section to section, okay, across from where we are, okay, to where you think you could be, because this is now giving you a plan of how strong and how potentially weak your recruitment may actually be. So again, inside the lines that you have drawn, this is what makes you money. These are all your strengths inside this line, okay? However, outside, these are all the weaknesses that you have within the recruitment market. And it's these weaknesses that prevent you making money. And so these are the areas that we need to address. So if you overlay the first wheel of life and then the circle of recruitment, and you can start to see what you start to need to be doing to move your life on the way you want. So if you're not generating enough leads, then converting leads is going to be really hard for you. If you're not mapping your marketplace and have a really good spread of clients, then again, how do you actually make sure that you've got enough jobs to resource to create enough CVs? How make sure you're controlling all of that information that's coming through to you to create interviews that you can then close and make a placement and carry on? So we've got to start to think about this in realistic terms, that everything inside here is a strength and everything inside here is a weakness. How we improve our weaknesses is sometimes not just by training alone, it's by changing our mindset and changing what goes on, because the balance between the two, the circle of life and the wheel of recruitment, is about getting a balance. It's about personal growth. It's the foundation to ensure that you have the quality of life that you deserve. So what we start to think about now is the things that we need to be doing to make sure that we move our circle outwards. Because if you look at that circle, you'll find that if most people look at the circle, and let's just go back to the circle that I've just drawn, if we look at the line, if that was a circle and we try to go round and try to drive that as a car or as a wheel, we'd find we'd be clunking and jumping off parts because it's not round. So we've got to really inflate this circle out to make sure that we have a smooth circle all the way around, whether it is a circle for recruitment or whether it's the wheel of life. Getting those to balance and run smoothly is really important. So the first thing we start to think about is the 5 characteristics of brilliant people. So I want you to, again, on the chat bar there, whack out 5 or characteristics, just start firing characteristics to me of what you think brilliant people actually do. So yeah, resilience, Kaz, absolutely resilience. You're right, Francesca, they listen. Brilliant people absolutely listen. They work hard. Absolutely. Anything else? They lead by example. They gain knowledge. Be consistent. They listen. They care. They're incredible and empathetic. Absolutely. They take control. They're always positive. They're willing to help. Absolutely, Kirsty. They're willing to help. You know, Jamie, always positive. Absolutely. They think outside the box, Stephen. Absolutely think outside the box. Okay. Ownership. They take absolute ownership. Okay. They make mistakes. Catherine, you couldn't be more right there. They make mistakes, and it's how they come back from those mistakes that is really important. They don't play the blame game, Jamie. You're absolutely right. They don't play the blame game, okay? They are a genuine interest for the cause, okay? So there's lots of things there that people started to fire out about what the 5 characteristics is. But when we start to boil them down into certain areas, the 5 main characteristics that people take is they take absolute positive action. So when taking ownership of an issue, it's about taking positive action. Taking positive action is not playing the blame game. It's about listening. The other thing that they do is they break out of limiting beliefs. They don't have anything that actually limits what they can do and what they can achieve. They break out of those limiting beliefs and constantly push for the next thing and constantly drive towards the next thing. Because what they genuinely do, brilliant people, is they think differently. They think differently to other people. They think about moving forward. They think about what that will actually mean to them and how that will manifest itself in the long term. So if you're owning an issue, Ben, thinking differently and how you then present that issue back to other people is really important. The big thing that they're able to manage, and a lot of people we're going through this at the moment, they have the ability to manage stress. And the ability to manage stress is really important, because we're going to go on to talk about stress quite a lot in this course, because this is about you as a person and what limits your beliefs and what limits you from moving forward is how you manage stress and what happens when you put yourself in a stressful situation. And the last thing they do is they all take massive action. They do not do anything by halves. They take genuine action moving forward. So, positive action. The first characteristic of being a brilliant person is to take positive actions with the words they choose, the questions they ask themselves, and the internal language they use. And I always look at this as the UK, and I'll take this as a very UK-centric thing. You know, quite a lot of time we're a country of moaners. We moan about all sorts of different things, and let's take a real sort of generic one that we can all sort of probably understand. Let's take the 2012 Olympics as a prime example. When the Olympics was awarded to London, it was going to be, oh my God, it's going to be the worst thing that ever happens to London. London's going to grind to a halt. I believe there was comments about, oh, the size of the medals are ridiculously small. They're not the right size of the medals. We're going to be rubbish at the opening ceremony. We're not going to be great at competing. The weather's going to be absolutely atrocious, etc., etc., etc. And there was lots of things that we actually moaned about. And actually, the people's mindset of going into those Olympics was very different to where their mindset was when they came out of those Olympics. So if you look at the situation now, there's lots of people moaning and sort of going, what's going to happen? How's this going to work? Okay, what's happening? And they're doing the same thing because your brain works in what they call pathways, and it's stimulated by the words that you use daily. So the first challenge that we have, okay, is to change your daily language in the next 30 days. So I always sort of think about this, and I remember sort of working with big teams in business and working with the managers and trying to help the manager create a more positive environment and trying to help the team create a more positive environment. So things that I could hear all the time, oh, I feel a little bit sick. And I would say, is that a positive or is that a negative? Or should you be saying, today actually, I could feel healthier? It's a better way of wording thing. I'm used to sort of the following here instead of, I'm tired. I could do with more energy. You know, I'm a bit peed off about this. I could be happier. I'm broke. You know, I could do with more money. All these things are the questions that we ask ourselves constantly on a daily basis, and constantly we answer themselves by our own internal mechanism. So the questions we ask ourselves daily and the self-talk that we have, because we all talk to ourselves, okay, that little voice inside us, you know, that's the things that says to us what we can and what we cannot do. And there'll be some people be listening to this now and going, oh, this is a bit boring, it's not quite right, or that doesn't happen to me, okay? Because you listen to what people say in very different ways, and you take what they say on board in very different ways. And then how you internalize that. And I always think there's two different types of people inside you. There's the perfect you that's always striving to do the perfect thing. And then there's the imperfect you that's always trying to knock the perfect thing down and try change things. So we've got to change the actual internal questions we ask ourselves constantly. We have to be careful about the questions we ask ourselves, because first and foremost, we need to make them more positive. And for those people who've actually worked with me and know me from there, they'll know that one word that I really hate is the word try. And I hear this quite a lot in recruitment. I'm going to try hit this target. I'm going to try get that candidate out there. I'm going to try get this candidate client to convert. As soon as I hear the word try, I know one thing's going to happen. They're going to fail. Why? Because try is that opportunity for them to say, well, I tried something and it didn't work. It's an instant get out clause. So you've got to start working with more positive. I am going to convert that client. I am going to make that sale. I'm going to do this project. You've got to make it in a very positive way, because the way you self-talk to yourself starts to build and build inside. So sometimes you'll feel uncomfortable, as if you're beating yourself up. And for a long time, if it goes on and on and on, then you start to get depressed and you start to work. So you've got to start changing the internal language you use to be more upbeat, to become a more positive first person. It's okay to feel negative sometimes, but it's not okay to let that dominate you and drive you down. So you've got to work with yourself, but you've also got to work with your friends, because your friends and your teammates may realize things and see things inside you that you didn't see yourself that are being negative, and they may be able to change that. So you've got to feel good about yourself. Your internal chatter is really important. You'll never feel good about yourself or about the situation unless you choose to feel good. So how you choose to feel is really important. So we've got to start moving on and start thinking about limiting beliefs and what breaking out of those limiting beliefs actually really means. Limiting beliefs is based around fear. And fear to me stands for false evidence appearing real. Most things that actually appear to be false, around about 95% of them, actually are things that we are frightened of, but they are false. And if I said, you know, there's certain things, yeah, my lovely lady is very scared of spiders. And yet the most poisonous spider in the world, she's not scared of. She's not scared of the daddy long legs, which has the most poisonous venom in the world. Yet it has the shortest teeth in the spider family, and therefore can't pierce your skin. So you've got to start to think of some of the things that you fear, okay, are actually false. Some of the things that you are worried about don't actually happen. So you've got to start thinking about how you're going to break out of your comfort zones and what you do to break out into that Okay, so to break out of your comfort zone, you've got to do it. Oops, sorry, you don't have to do it that way. You've got to do it at pace. You've got to really do it at pace. The longer you take to break out of the comfort zone, the more it will manifest itself inside your mind. The more it manifests itself, the less likely you are to try and move out of that comfort zone and try something different. If you're working with a team, it becomes more, or easier, should I say, to break out of your comfort zone and move forward, because with a team, they'll help you do that. And you can imagine so imagine the great winning teams of the past in any sort of sporting event or anything along those lines. Look at the recruitment teams that massively bill loads of money. It's because they're all focused on the same thing. They're all trying to drive positivity into the team, and they're all taking away the fear from everybody else and driving it. And the final thing is you've got to do it with fun on your, have a smile on your face and make it fun, because the more fun it is, the more people want to do it. And I'll give you a true story about teamwork, about people being held back by false evidence and people being afraid to step out of a comfort zone. So I'm going to use two people, a guy called John and a guy called Richard. And they met at school. These two guys, they met at school, and Richard had a great idea. He said, do you know what? I want to create a school magazine. And so he went to the head and he said, John, why don't you come with me? I want you to be part of this. You're my best mate. So they went to the head, and the head said, no, I do not want you to do this. And so they argued with the head, and the head finally gave in. He said, okay, you can do it on one condition: there is no rubbish left around the school. So they went off, they created a school mag. The small school mag came out, and they got instantly brought to the headmaster's office. He showed them the window and said, look at all those magazines littering the school playground. Go away, pick them up, never do it again. So they went away, and they're picking them up. And that time, John turns to Rich and said, we shouldn't do this again. We're going to get in so much trouble. It's poor. Richard said, no, we're doing it again. We'll do it better. We'll make it so they can't throw it away. And so they did. And they carried on doing it. Richard came to leave school, and he took it from a mag at school and thought he'd create a magazine that was selling stuff, mail order magazine. And so he got this magazine out, and he asked John, he said, John, will you come and work with me? I'm doing this. This is what's happening at the moment. And the magazine was going out. And they were making lots of money. Well, Richard was. John wasn't, because he didn't want to go with it, because he didn't feel that it would actually work. And then all of a sudden, there was a postal strike. And John turned to Richard and said, look, I told you there's a problem. What are you going to do now? There's a postal strike. You can't get your product out to your client base. And Richard turned around and said, come and work for me, John. I've just opened a new store. So we're now going to sell the product out of a store. They didn't just open a store. They opened a store in the middle of London, in the middle of Oxford Street, because Richard was Richard Branson and John was his best mate at school. Richard had no limiting beliefs. John was full of limiting beliefs and refused point blank to go outside of those beliefs and push for the next thing. So if you go outside your limiting beliefs and do things quickly as a team and make it fun, you'll always move forward. So it is about thinking differently. Einstein once said, you can't solve the problems with the same thinking that caused them in the first place. And we use our brains, we need to train our brains. Our brain has two sides. It has an analytical side on the left, and it has a creative side on the right. So imagine getting on a running machine when you go to a gym and just training one leg and hopping on one leg. You wouldn't do that. And yet our mind, we don't seem to train our mind as the way we should. We need to do training that creates the right side and the left side of our brain. So our brain is actually made up of a number of parts. So to train our brain, the first part of the brain that we need to train is the reptilian brain. And that's the brain that says flight or fight. It's a very simplistic, it's the ancient part of our brain that kicks in when anything happens. You then have what's called the limbic system, and that's long-term memory, emotional, habits, your behaviors. This part filters your thoughts. And then you have what's called the neocortex. This is the creative side, the imaginative part of your brain. But your limbic brain decides where your thought processes end up. Do they go to the reptilian side, fight or flight, or do they go to the neocortex side? So you need to train your brain to be sending things to the neocortex side rather than flight or fight side. And to give you an idea of how that actually works and how that stress is dealt with at a high level by your brain, training your brain to do certain things. If you think about the armed forces, and you think about the armed forces when they're involved in a genuine gunfight, a firefight is going on, their reptilian brain doesn't kick in. Their reptilian brain, which is fight or flight, and everyone thinks their reptilian brain is actually kicking in and they're fighting. It's not. Their neocortex brain has actually kicked in, and they're making decisions on how they fight. They're in control of what they actually do because they've trained their brain to accept what is going on around them, and they're driving that for them. So training your brain today is really important. So if you answer okay, you're telling your brain that you're okay. And so if I said to you, the usual sort of thing, how are you this morning? And you said, I'm okay. What's your brain telling you? Your brain is telling you you're okay. However, if you automatically answered, brilliant, how are you this morning? I'm brilliant. What's your brain telling you then? Your brain is telling you that you're brilliant, and it has a different chemical reaction inside your body. So the words you choose constantly, the way you speak to colleagues, has a direct effect on you, but it also has a direct effect on them. So if you're working as a team, can you imagine if you walked in, how are you this morning? Oh, I'm brilliant. What's they going to ask? Why are you brilliant? And that gives them an idea of what's going on in your life, and that creates them in the same format and drives them a little bit further. So we've got to make sure that we have those thoughts every day, and how we use those thoughts to train ourselves. Because if we use our brain in different ways, the more we can train our brain to use the neocortex, the thinking cap, the easier it is to process information and get creative output. And remember, choose your process, your thoughts to get the results that you want. So if you suddenly start to think negative thoughts about some of the results that you're going to achieve, guess what? You will get negative results. So you've got to start training your brain to be realistic, but to be more positive on everything that we do and how we drive that positivity. So we've got to manage stress. And the one thing I always talk about stress is I speak to lots of clients constantly about how you manage stress. And one of the things I always get is I go and watch the TV. That's what my stress breaker is, watching the TV. Well, I can tell you now, the TV is not a stress breaker. TV is the biggest cause of anxiety there is in the country, because the TV compounds everything. So if you look at the news, what's happening in the news now, it is dismal constantly every single day, and as it should be. But looking for the happy news, if we look at the guy that's doing 100 laps of his garden for the NHS, and he did it for a bit of a giggle and thought they'd range a couple of £100 maybe. I think he's on now £1.5 million that he's raised. What a great good news story. And how does that make you feel? Instantly, when you hear about that story, it's instantly doing things inside your mind, because your cortex is actually thinking about what that is, and then it's releasing chemicals into your brain. So we've got to think about how we do that. So the more stressed you are, and I hear this quite a lot in interviews, when are you at your best? And I say, oh, I'm at my best when I'm absolutely stressed and I've got so much work on. Well, the more stressed you are, the actual quicker you work. The quicker you work, the more mistakes you make. So if I work better when I'm stressed, that's absolute rubbish, because there's two kinds of stress that we have to be aware of. There's what's called eustress, which is the excitement for a big event, Christmas, going on a roller coaster ride, something like that. That is a type of stress that you want. That's a good stress. And then you have distress, which is panic, worried about hitting a deadline. So one is good and one is bad. So do you really want to work under stress? No. So what you need to work on is actually getting a good night's sleep, because a good night's sleep is actually what helps the brain recover and refresh itself. It relaxes itself. So you've got to learn to relax and learn to switch off. And I know for a fact that I am shocking at switching off. I am swatching, I will go to bed at ridiculous o'clock at night and wake up at ridiculous o'clock early in the morning. I will have a book by my side of my bed and I'll be writing notes in the middle of the night constantly. I've had to stop that, for the good of my own health, because I want to get a good night's sleep. And what I've found is the more I actually have a good night's sleep, the more productive I am during the day. So you've got to look at the type of sleep that you have. Beta is obviously when you're wide awake. Alpha is when you're very relaxed. And then theta is the light sleep, and delta is deep sleep. The more deep sleep that you have, the more you will relax. And the more you relax, the better person you will be the following day. How often do you wake up tired, grumpy, and not very happy? So learning to relax and learning to sleep properly is one of the greatest cures for having a brilliant mindset. So, massive action. So the question is, why aren't you going out there and doing things instead of just talking about it or watching others do it? Because massive action creates massive results. And I see this an awful lot in my job as going around and speaking to recruitment agency owners, their management teams, of what's going on. You can walk into an office and I can genuinely tell which person is the biggest biller, which person's the most productive biller, who is not, and who does what. Why? Because I can spend 10 minutes just watching what goes on and look at the people that takes massive action, positive action, and they're the people that are getting results. You can see people that are hiding and people that aren't doing the work. You can listen to it in board meetings. You can see the directors that are absolutely driving the business forward, and you can see those that are hanging back and not really engaging in the process. So you have to take massive action and you have to push yourself out of that comfort zone to get there. And that brings us on to the next thing, which is goal setting. So we start to set goals. We're going to do the usual thing, aren't we? We're going to set goals as SMART goals. So I'm assuming all of us have heard SMART goals. We've all used SMART goals in the past. Yeah, hands up. Yeah, if just drop a line there, drop a little nod if you've been using SMART goals, so make sure everyone understands what SMART goals are. Okay, yeah, so quite a few people playing through. Okay, yeah. So SMART goals are what we normally set. However, I think there is a better way of setting goals. A better way of setting goals that mean you'll be more successful. Because SMART goals are really, really good. However, what SMART goals aren't great at is personalizing them. So if you set a SMART goal, it has to be a personal goal to you. It has to be a positive goal to you, and it has to be set in the present tense. If it's set in the present tense, then it becomes so much more important for you to actually achieve. If it's a personal goal, again, it's something that you're going to drive to achieve. So we're going to make all our goals personal and keep driving those goals constantly. Because when we talk about goals, we talk about this. What's in it for me? So everyone has great goals. You know, if you're building a perm team, a contract team, a business, if you're trying to just build a desk for yourself, these are all exciting and stimulating things. But remember, Rome wasn't built in a day. So setting goals is really important for you to achieve along the lines. But we're talking about what you're going to make a difference in your life. We're not talking about just hitting a goal for a target sake or for a KPI sake, okay? I don't want, or I don't care if it's a selfish or it's time to be selfish. You know, it's about setting goals in what's in it for you and what are you going to achieve, because the what in it for you is the why. The why are you doing it? And if you can understand the why you do things and why you want to achieve certain things, then all of a sudden the goals that you set become so much more personable. They become so much more set in the present tense, and you become absolutely positive about achieving those goals. So it's important that you work hard to ensure that when you set goals, you make sure that they are personal to you. They are in the present tense, and they absolutely are positive for you to move forward. So, positive thinking, okay? We have to remove the negative language whilst goal setting and focus on making it very positive. Positive language when goal setting is important to frame the mind of the overall delivery of what's going on. So if we go back to the sort of questions I was asking a little bit earlier on, okay, so I'm going to set myself a goal. I no longer want to be in debt. I've got a big mortgage. I want to get rid of my mortgage. Okay, so I no longer want to be in debt, is it positive or negative? When we focus on the word, focus on the words in this goal, it even sounds as if it's in the present tense. I no longer want to, I am no longer in debt, or I no longer want to be in debt. But the focus word here is the word debt. And when you start to look at the positivity of that word debt, it doesn't have a very positive correlation to your brain, because the brain says debt. That means you're thinking about the bad debts that you have. So to change language, I want to be financially free, is a far better way of saying I no longer want to be in debt. I want to be financially free. It sounds so much better. And the actual word, the focus word that you are looking at there is free. And that creates a far different result inside your head than it is if you just said, I no longer want to be in debt. So I am financially free, or I want to be financially free, is a far better way of phrasing things than there. So start to think about when you're setting goals, and start to think about the negative language that you use when you set those goals. So goal setting in the present tense. Okay, if we start to think about setting goals in the present tense, you create something called Gestalt. And what Gestalt is, it's your brain. And what your brain does, it compartmentalizes everything that you set in order. So it creates a date. So if I was your manager and I was setting you a target for the end of the year, your brain logs it in December and you start to think about it in December. Hence why when you're set your annual target in January, by March, April, May, you're not even thinking about your annual target because your brain's quite nicely stored it away. So you've got to create goals that are set in the present tense, because you've got to set goals that you need to achieve constantly. Therefore, if you've got big targets, you need to compartmentalize them down into little goals and set little goals. Therefore, your mindset is about achieving the little goal, the present one that needs to be achieved today, which links to the big goal. That means your goals become infinite rather than defined. If your goals are defined, once you've hit your goals, what do? So you've got to carry on driving goals. That way you achieve your goals a lot quicker than just thinking, oh, here's my annual target. What am I going to do? I've got a monthly target every month. So make sure your goals are set in the present tense. So every day should have a goal that you should be achieving, and you should need to work on that, because that's how your brain will compartmentalize the goals that you set. So I am the greatest. It's personal, it's positive, and it's in the present tense. And Muhammad Ali was famed for saying, I am the greatest. He was famed for saying, I am the greatest, even before he achieved anything. So before he achieved the Olympic medal, before he knocked out Sonny Liston in 65, he was famed for going round. And Ali would go back to his hotel at night and he would start to imagine winning. And he would then go away to the press conferences and start to predict the actual round he would win in. And he would do that, and he did that for about the first 12 fights. He predicted the actual round he would win in, because he created such a powerful belief system around him, and he was so passionate about it that it created a whole new psychology inside himself. Because he was telling himself that he was the greatest, his brain had to catch himself up to make sure he was the greatest. So he ate and lived and breathed every moment of his goal of I am the greatest, because he believed in that, and he believed all the time. So if you want to make sure that you are the greatest, you've got to make sure that you start to believe in what you say and think about it. And that picture there of Muhammad Ali knocking down Sonny Liston in 65, the comment that he'd said on that picture, and that's the second time he fought Sonny Liston that year, they said when Sonny Liston was falling to the floor, you had an opportunity to hit him, why didn't you hit him again? And Ali's comment was, because it has spoiled a beautiful picture that I've had in my mind for so long. And that's how focused he was on what he wanted to be. And he said, I know where I'm going and I know the truth. I don't have to be what you want me to be. I am free to be what I want. And that's the thing about free thinking. And that's the free thing about having a positive mindset. You are free to be what you want because your mind allows you to be that. So don't let other people talk you out of the things that you want. You need to work forward. So now, 90 days to be brilliant. The greatest danger for most of us is not that our aim too high and we miss it, is that we aim too low and we reach it. So to create a level of intensity required passion, and you need to make the goals a must. So you need to start to think about the words that we use and how we use that. So if you want to achieve in the next 90 days, I want you to think about that of 4 lots of 90 days. That's a year. The only thing that will limit your goals is your imagination. So that when you look at your circle of recruitment and you look at the wheel of life, you need to take massive action now in order to achieve the things that you want, and look at the outside of those circles where you're losing money or losing passion, and look at how you can address those in your mind's eye, because then you're going to create a more positive mindset. Then you're going to create a mindset that's going to be indestructible as you move forward and you keep driving forward. Because the foundations that we've just talked about will lead to massive action. And once we lead to massive action, it will lead to massive results. So we've got to make sure that you're not a bystander looking on to achieve brilliance. You've got to step out of your comfort zone and reach for the stars to make sure you get there and drive that as we go. So it's time to be brilliant. So how do we do that? You need to benchmark your performance. At the moment, poor performance. We look at the market now. We can change how we perform. We look at then what we call a good performance. We then look at what we think is a fantastic performance, and then what we think is a brilliant performance. But I want you to listen to what your manager says to you, or what you say to yourself, or what other people say to you constantly. And this is, again, something that I have a real bugbear with, and I try to stop people saying it to me, and I try to stop saying it to other people. I try to stop saying, that's good, because good is the minimum expectation of people nowadays. And good, as we've seen on this graph here, here isn't really, good at all. This, is below average. So really we need to be aiming towards fantastic and start to grow towards being brilliant. And the difference between those that excel at recruitment and those that are good at recruitment is their mindset. And it's how they deal with certain things in their mindset that stops them moving forward, and what they do to drive those things. So true success is about doing a job brilliantly. Doing a good job isn't good enough. You'll get the rewards you deserve by doing a brilliant job, but brilliance doesn't happen by accident. You have to step up to the next level and focus on areas where you want brilliance in your life right now. So it's about going that extra mile. It's about caring more and understanding more, researching more, delivering more, and putting the effort in that other people don't want to put in. And it's interesting, in this period of time, I'm speaking to lots of recruiters at the moment, lots of business owners. And it's interesting, the ones that are asking positive questions about what they can be doing rather than, what's happening in the marketplace. What they are concentrating on how they can break out of their limiting belief of what the market is. They're the ones that are starting to create brilliant results. So if you looked at the wheels and you decided where you want to be in your life, once you get the concept of working brilliantly, you'll immediately start to say, that is where I want to be. And once you start to say, that is where I want to be, your brain starts focusing on that journey, on where you need to be going. So if you want to be brilliant, you have to step up. It's that simple. It's all about what you believe and how you confirm your beliefs. And that's the big difference. Lots of people believe they want to be in a certain place. but it's how they confirm those beliefs inside their mindset that makes a huge difference to them. So the belief system, what's holding you back? And here's a question for you. And there's some people on this call that know me quite well. So I'm going to ask this question. I'm going to sort of explain myself to you quite obviously. Okay. So I'm a big, tall person. So I'm going to describe myself. I'm 6'1". I am 15 stone. I've got 11% body fat. I've got a 34-inch waist and a 48-inch chest. I have played semi-pro rugby. I am quite active in sports, and I still teach quite a lot of sports. So I want you to answer there. Do you believe that I am a big, tall person? Just say yes or no on the chat box whether you believe that I am a big, tall person. Is that how you're visualizing me? So quite a poop. Oh, Catherine says no. Jamie's saying yes. Quite a few people flying yes. Lots of people yes saying yes. Good. So lots of people are saying yes. Catherine, though, has got a very, very interesting point. She's saying no. She doesn't visualize me as a big, tall person. And actually, Catherine, I don't visualize myself as a big, tall person because I am the smallest person in my family. My father was 6'7". I've got a brother at 6'7". I've got a brother at 6'3". I've got a very small mother at 5'2". But most of the people in my family are very big. When I was playing rugby, the position I played was open side flanker. I was a relatively small flanker at the level that I played at rugby. And most people in the pack were 6'5" plus. So I never visualized myself as a big, tall person. And what happens when you start to visualize yourself? You create a belief system. And that belief system is a plateau that you there. You then create supporting evidence around that system to believe what you want to believe. So when I looked around my family, I believed that I was small. When I looked around the people that I was playing rugby with, because I was smaller than them, I believed I was small. So I never thought myself as a big, tall person. I always thought myself as fairly small. However, in work, lots of people know me as Big H, Big G, and I could never understand why that was because I never saw myself as a big, tall person. So imagine the CD in your head playing 24/7, 365, thinking about all the things you feel, you think every day, everything you know about yourself. So the question is, what holds you back? What was holding me back as believing I was a big, tall person was the pillars that I was growing around myself saying, actually, I'm not a big, tall person. What I need to do is really take away those sort of things and smash them. I want to think about the parts of your life that are fantastic and brilliant. And these thoughts you want playing in your head constantly, and you should be building thoughts about them. I also want you to think about what you think is holding you back and why you're holding your back. So I'm going to ask you all a question. I want to see whether you will answer this question. So I'm going to give everybody on this call £10,000. I'm going to give you a first class plane ticket to New York. And in New York, you can buy anything you like. I'm going to put you in the Waldorf, okay? And let's forget Corona is actually happening now. I'm going to put you in the Waldorf, okay, in a 5-star hotel on the penthouse. So you've got first class ticket over, £10,000 to spend, a full week in the Waldorf, okay? So the question is, would you go? Simple question, yes or no, would you go? So let's forget coronavirus is actually happening, okay? Simple as it was normal 4 weeks ago, would you go? What's your mind saying to you now? Absolutely yes. Catherine's a no again. Jamie's yes. Definitely yes. So Kieran's yes. If I could take my family, Ben, you can take your family, mate. I'd like to do that. Absolutely. So people are saying yes. What happened if I said the flight was on the 21st of September 2001, 10 days after they'd flown into the Twin Towers? Would you go now? So answer yes, now, or no. Would you go now? So Colette's now going, still going. Stephen's going. A couple of no's. Jamie's going. I'll be very hesitant. Is Kieran's now? Karen Deep's going. Is he'd go anywhere? Tom's going. Quite a few people are saying no as well. The reason being is very interesting. When I've asked this question before, and obviously it's hard to sort of gain your answers, but when I've asked this question before, lots of people change from yeses to nos. And they're saying because they're building a belief system around them, why do I want to go? They've just been bombed. God, it's going to be an awful place. Why would I do that? Other people are thinking, of course I'd go. The Americans will be so happy to see me because they're in a time of crisis and we're going to go over there and talk to them. They're going to have all sorts of different things saying, oh, the security is going to be so harsh. I don't want to go because it's going to be very bad. But other people will be thinking security is brilliant. That means it's never going to happen again. So what you're doing is you're building your own belief systems around you on why you would go or why you wouldn't go. And those people that change their belief systems are those people that understand that you can change your mind, but you'll build pillars around you that actually make you understand what's going on and make you believe those sort of things. Most things that we talk about aren't true. Most things that we fear aren't true. And yet there's lots of people that were changing from yes to no at that process. So flying to America, okay, because your mindset supports the evidence confirming your belief system. So if you have a belief system, you'll find evidence whatever you do to support it. So the question is, what's holding you back now from making money? Is it debt? Is it time? Is it location? Is it qualification? Is it your boss? Is it being a woman? Is it your partner? Is it being a man? Is it being fat? Is it being thin? Is it fear of failure? All these things come out when I talk to people, but in complete honesty. The only way of moving forward is to be aware of the things that are holding you back. And if you're aware of the things that are holding you back, and considering this is a motivational course, it's quite depressing that we're talking about things that are holding you back. So following last week's, conversation about building a business and building a pipeline, you're now finding things that potentially will hold you back. And we were on a call earlier on this morning and people talk about, should I be doing BD, etc. So you're finding issues and you're finding things that can hold you back. But I'm glad people start to feel that way, because the good news is, if you know how to get rid of these things that are holding you back, then there are ways of things that you can be doing that make you go forward. You are in control of your own mindset. You're in control of your own thoughts. So letting them affect you, to me, is a little bit crazy. However, sometimes you need other people in your life to help you. And I've had lots of people in my life help me create my mindset and help me change my mindset when I've come across blocks. So again, having those team environments and having people around you in your team is really important. So to underline your main issues, these are the first ones that you're going to address, okay? So you have two people in your mind, as we've already talked about. You need to tell the negative side to shut up. You need to create a positive thought constantly to enable yourself to keep driving forward, and therefore pushing the negative side back, because you're in control of what that person says, but you're also in control of what the negative person says, because it is you on the inside. So you've got to control that constantly and move forward. So if we start to use different language, you'll start to take different actions. And words aren't enough at the end of the day. It all comes down to the words that you use and how you then implement them from your mindset. So if you start to use different language, you'll take different actions. And it's not a myth. I've done this constantly. It's about you starting to reprogram your nervous system, reprogram how you change the words that you use and what you think about those words. So in changing your internal dialogue will give you an immediate and noticeable results. So it was quite interesting. I was speaking to someone probably about 3 or 4 months ago, and we were talking about this very same thing. And their comment was, I am lazy. And so I said, are you really lazy? And they went, yes. So I said, okay, every time you think that you are lazy, I want you to say, I should do more. I can do more than this. Or I have the enthusiasm and drive and energy to achieve anything I put my mind to. I make it a must. And I said, so every time that lazy thought comes in, that little voice comes in, I want you to recite that line. I have enthusiasm, drive, and energy to achieve anything I put my mind to. I make it a must. And they called me about 3 weeks later and said, oh my God, my results have massively started to change, because where I thought I was lazy and I was putting things to one side, I'm now have the enthusiasm and the drive to actually achieve things that I put my mind to. So I'm actually putting things into practice more often than not, and actually getting the results that I want. So another person talked to me about a year ago saying, there's not enough time in the day. There's not enough hours. And I said, I can find time for everything that's important to me right now. And you'll find time for anything that's important. So what you have to do is write a priority list to make sure you're addressing the things that are truly important, because it's the things that are truly important that make sure that you are taking actions that you want. So I was always sort of very intrigued on a Monday talking to recruiters, certainly my teams, and asking, right, who's made a placement last week? And I kept getting the old viewers, I can't find the right candidate, I can't find this, I can't find that, etc. And I said, right, I want you to tell me one thing. The market is full of candidates who are starting a new job each Monday. You need to make sure that next Monday, one of those candidates is yours, because there are hundreds of thousands of candidates that every Monday start a new job. So to tell me that I can't find the right candidate isn't the right process, because once you say I can't find the right candidate, the word can't comes into your brain more than anything else and stops you moving forward. If you suddenly say, I must make sure one of the candidates that start next Monday is mine, I must make is the things that start to process your brain. So you start to look for the positives. You start to search for the candidates that will be starting next Monday and driving forward. But it's not always about talking to yourself. Sometimes we can get a mental block. And sometimes getting a mental block is really hard to get past, and you need help. And this is where teams come in, but this is where also mentors come in. And this isn't a sales course because I'm a mentor trying to sell you mentoring, because I want to tell you mentors in a different way, okay? I always say find a mentor or two, and I've had some brilliant mentors in my life, and I always find the best people to mentor me, and I listen and I learn from them, and I accept the potential within, and I don't allow my inner self to negatively talk to myself out of whatever they're telling me. So if I said to you, I am 54 years of age, some of my business mentors have been Bill Gates, Shackleton. Now, Shackleton went to the South Pole in the First World War. Churchill. So I'm actually naming people who are mentors to me that don't actually exist. However, in my own mindset sometimes, and it might sound daft to you, but if I'm asking Churchill for advice on how to move forward, and I'm visualizing what Churchill will say to me, I know Churchill is as the most positive person that I've ever read about with regards to the things he did in the Second World War and how he led the nation. He will give me the most positive answer, which means my negative side can't compete with that, because Churchill is telling me to go forward and how to do things. So I start to think about the things in that way. And so sometimes I will probably say 99% of the time, I know what I need to be doing. I just need someone else to clarify that to me. So sometimes using a make-believe mentor will massively help you bridge your gap. using an actual mentor. And I've said to lots of people this week, just call me if you need anything and talk to me about how it can help you move forward. But driving yourself sometimes and getting someone that you respect and getting someone that you revere to mentor you internally will mean that the conversations in your head, you are now getting best advice constantly in your head. And guess what? Once you start to get best advice, what starts to happen is you make it real, you start to believe it, and you start to take massive action. And once you start to take massive action, it becomes like a chain reaction. So, a little bit of homework I want you to do, because we're sort of running short, or we've just gone over the hour, okay? How can I use my unstoppable energy to stay focused on my life mission? Whether it be success, fun, passion, greed, enthusiasm, a long list, okay, there. So people associate values with the way you might feel, the things that you do, your actions. And I believe values are the most important integral part of the quality of life. Truly, if you have the right values, then the right quality of life can be improved from anything that you do or anything that you've imagined in the past. And people always ask me why I chose to become a mentor and a coach to business people. And it's not about money for me. And it was never about money. Even recruitment wasn't about money. It's about seeing other people succeed. It was about myself succeeding. And now I get far more joy about seeing other people succeed. So I put my values down. So I want to ask yourself the question, what are the values that you hold dear? What are those values? And most people sometimes struggle to understand what those values are. So I will say, write down your values. And I want you to ask this question: how can I be a part of the value that I've just added or written down? What can I do to make that value better? And for those who know me, I got divorced some years ago and went through a very bad divorce. And I went through a period of thinking, I will never find anyone to love me. And I bet Karen Deep at the moment is laughing on this phone call, because Karen Deep knows me very, very well. And I went through quite a long time thinking about that, because the way my ex had treated me and the way and I let those thoughts creep into my head. Okay. And then I started to change my values and what I actually wanted, what I did and what I want. 8-9 years ago, I found the most wonderful lady and changed my world completely. Okay. But I didn't change my value set. I just created a set of values that I wanted to empower me to go out and find the right person. So sometimes by empowering yourself, you are disempowering others. But dig deep, because the questions that you ask yourself constantly about yourself have a massive impact on your capability to function on a day-to-day basis. So you need to find at the forefront of your values what you actually want and what those actual values mean to yourself. But you'll find, rather than having a conversation with someone or being totally focused, you start to listen and become more interested in that conversation with somebody if you understand the values that you're trying to add to that person and what you can gain to that. And as a recruiter, I think that's really important. And most of those things that you start to talk about sometimes will disempower people. So you've got to start to think about how you can empower your candidates and how you empower your clients. And that is all about your positivity and your drive and your values. So if you're going in there as a contingent recruiter on a transactional basis and you have no passion other than for your own greed, then others will pick that up very, very quickly. But if you have passion about them, and to me, recruitment was all about placing a candidate, all about fulfilling a client's need, making the client feel better and the candidate feel better. What that gave me was a great living. And what that gave me was an opportunity to change my life. So how I could use my unstoppable energy to stay focused on my life vision became my focus. So write down your values and write down them to make sure you understand them. And then once you've written down your values, what you need to do is put your values in orders of importance. So do these values in order of they allow me to achieve my ultimate destiny. And then what you find, you have a different value set, and then you have a different focus on the things that you actually want out of life. And what coronavirus has actually done, it's changed everyone's values. It's changed people's values quite an awful lot. And I think as we come out of this situation, clients and candidates' values will certainly have changed. So if you change your value set now as well and come out of that in a very positive way, looking after the values that you cherish, and hope they're the same values that your clients and your candidates cherish, you will change your results. So life will change for you right now by taking the correct action in the next few moments. So brilliant success. And I always think about this, and I wrote this course years ago, and I've left this last slide as it is, okay? Because this last slide was about me creating a team. I feel success every time I turn up at work. And what I meant by that was I wanted to be in a place where I was positive and happy. I didn't want to be going to work thinking, oh God, it's just work. And I've never gone to work feeling like that. So I always want to feel it's a success. I turn up at work every single day and I'm enjoying what I do every single day. I feel success every time I get to the end of a day and I've made a true connection with my clients and my candidates and made them happy. And that was really important to me as a recruiter, that I felt I'd made some really good connections with clients and candidates and made them happy. I then looked at my office and I said, I feel success every time I look around the office and I see others being successful. I wanted to enjoy what they were doing and I wanted to create success around me, because success breeds success, and values create a very, very stringent set of rules that success can breed in. But if you have a negative environment, then you'll find that that strangles success and strangles positivity. So we've got to make sure we change that. So create a visual image of your new value system. Look at it every single day, fill your mind with it, and work on it until you become ultimately what you want to be. Because success and failure is a very fine line. And you can choose now which way you go and which way you work with to become the person you want to be. So you've got 90 days to think. If I put a plan in from that where I want to be in 90 days, I've got to think about when I'm coming out of this situation, what can I do now? What can I do with regarding my value proposition to myself, to my clients, to my candidates, to my customers? What can I do to the value proposition to my family, to my friends, to me as a person? What can I do all the way through that? So look at that circle of life and I look at that circle of recruitment and I think the insides of my strengths, the outside of my weaknesses. Now mentally, how can I prepare myself to make the weaknesses smaller, the wheel bigger, and so it runs smoother constantly? And everyone on this call has that ability inside their own mindset now. It's how you choose to initiate it and how you choose to adopt it. So that's the course. Very quick view of your own internal movements and your own internal thought sets. So if you have any questions, feel free to pop them on the question bars or pop them on the chat bar, and I'm happy to answer any questions. No questions? Brilliant. Okay. Well, if I've got no questions, I'd like to thank you all for attending. Next week, we will do some more training back onto the recruitment from there. If you've got any questions and you want to speak to me personally, feel free to give me a call. It's not an issue. I'm happy to field any calls. If you think the course was good, feel free to put a post out on LinkedIn telling people how well it was. And I'd like to leave it there. I'd like to wish you all the best, all the health and happiness, and I shall see you all next week. Guys, thank you very much. Speak to you later. Have a good week.